This is the Sports Hit List. By the fans, for the fans.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Pro Wrestling What Ifs right here on the Sports Hit List by the fans, for the fans. I am your host, the Outlaw of Long Island, Zach Droll. As always, I'm joined by a revolving door of guests, but one person likes to stick around more so than he wants to. Overstaying his welcome, I think, but he's always a good friend to have on here, a good person to talk to. Matt of the Cheek Nation, how's it going, man?
Hey, Zach, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back. 4 weeks in a row, baby. 4.
Hey, if you're on next week, you got 5 weeks in a row then.
And I'll be 5 minutes. And actually, it's pretty much a lot because Carl's like, you might as well just sign up. You might as well just schedule you for the rest of them. So
next up, we have someone that has a nickname now, Biscuit, otherwise known as Clint. How's it going, man?
What up, what up? Happy to be back. One day I'll get to go like 3 or 4 times in a row. My record's 2, but you got to start a win streak over, so we're back at 1 week this week. Happy to be here. Super excited.
And someone new to the panel, Justin, you're a friend of Clint's, and if you're a friend of Clint's, you were a friend of mine. How's it going, man?
Nice to be here, guys. Good. Glad to be here.
Happy you all here. So, today's topic of Pro Wrestling What Ifs is, what if blank did leave? So that means, in a scenario, what if someone did leave WWE, went to New Japan, Impact? What if someone went from Impact to WWE, New Japan to Ring of Honor? It's a whole mess of things you can think of. It could be a work thing, it could be a work shoot thing. Because I realized that this topic was really hard to think of, so I added the work shoot element into this. Without further ado, Justin, you are the newbie. I'm going to give you the floor first, because I like your idea that we talked about before recording. So let me get up the timer. 7 minutes is on the clock, and your time starts now.
Okay, so I pitched the idea of kind of going against of what if this person didn't leave, but what if this group didn't leave? And I just went with the Radicals or Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, and Eddie Guerrero leaving WCW to jump to WWE or WWF at the time. And in their place, I put, Harlem Heat and Diamond Dallas Page, them leaving WCW and going to them leaving WCW to go to WWF. That's kind of the place I went with it. And I was wondering, what they see with Dean Malenko or Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero specifically, did they see the level of success that they saw in WWF if they were able to kind of shift, creative more their way to make them the stars that they should have been, and not just be meandering around the cruiserweight scene. When we see Eddie Guerrero winning or competing for the WCW heavyweight title, we see Chris Benoit in that scene, or we just see them fighting for the TV title or the United States title or the cruiserweight title over and over again. So, that's kind of like where I'm putting it, and then putting the Harlem Heat run through the tag division in WWF. How much of an impact would Diamond Dallas Page at that point in his career? Where would he end up in WWF?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of like, the question that I have. I do think we do see maybe Eddie Guerrero and kind of be stuck in the mid-card range because he wasn't as aggressive as Chris Benoit, in my opinion. So he didn't really come off as the big threat that could change the minds of the writing staff at WCW. I think Chris Benoit had that attitude, that edge that would have really pushed him a bit further ahead than maybe Eddie Guerrero. Dean Malenko, I don't see him, getting out of that mid-card range at all. But
So it's safe to say he held himself in the mid-card range?
Yeah. But just one of the 1,000 holds.
Yeah, just one of his 1,000 holds. Okay.
I do like that because now does do the Harlem Heat get the same sort of love and affection that they got in WCW at that time? Do they?
I would
I
think
don't
they
know.
would because I mean it would have taken some time, I think, but they probably wouldn't have made that big immediate impact in WWF.
Mhm.
But I think over time they would have risen to the top just because they were approaching that household name. And at least in my opinion, you knew who Harlem Heat was. If you watched even if you watched just one program, you had an idea who Harlem Heat was. You knew just like, okay, this is a well decorated team on the other promotion. So you don't come into another promotion be held down, for too long. But yeah, I think we would see more of a tag team dominance from them than we would see Booker T being the single star that he was. I think Stevie Ray would have been treated a lot better and put ahead. I don't think he would have been as burnt out and struggling on his own to stay relevant, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and the program they could have had with the tag teams in WWF and WWE at the time with the Dudleys and the Hardys and Edge and Christian and stuff. I mean, that would have just been, and then you add Harlem Heat into the mix too, because WCW didn't really have a strong tag team division like WWF did. So you throw them into the mix and just add another team into what those 6 guys were already doing, and then you add the athleticism of Harlem Heat, dude, it could have been sweet. Not saying they would have just ran with the titles and stuff, but I think it would have added it would have added even more to the program between those 6 guys, adding those 2 in.
That's why I say you don't crown them right away. You kind of just push them. You kind of push them, not slow burn, but you give them a lengthy, like a little moderate time to really establish themselves amongst the Dudleys, amongst Edge and Christian, amongst the Hardy Boys. Then when they get to the top, it means something. It's not just these guys coming from Atlanta, but let's put them at the top and make a statement here.
Anything you want to add, Matt? I see you gearing up.
My wheels are turning. I find it tough because I don't know how Vince would repackage them, because you can't call them Harlem Heat. And you can't, calling them Houston Heat would be too close and just sounds silly. So you'd have to repackage them somehow. And with Vince, I mean, let's keep it 100. Vince goes for stereotypical tropes. He would have tried to crime time them or something like that, and it would not have gone well. And I think that would have soured Stevie Ray a lot faster than he got soured at the end of WCW. Just having to deal with Vince's poor creative for black folk, just because it's not good historically.
Yeah. And I was avoiding going down that route.
I mean, that's kind of. I feel you. Well, I was thinking, I was like, nah, I wouldn't want to see that just for them, because especially at the that was what, 2000 that happened. It was before the invasion, which was 01.
I think it was probably like 98, 99. I like to think.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the end of the Attitude Era. That would have not been a good time for the Harlem Heat to move over.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
On the other side of this, it would have been great. Give him an intercontinental run through there, and it'd have been great because DDP was on top of the world.
But see, Vince doesn't buy DDP. And we saw, because DDP still had heat after the invasion. People still liked him, but they didn't let him be DDP. They tried to make him that creeper stalker, and then they went with the Positively Page, which was more like him, but they didn't let DDP be DDP.
That's true. That's not the U.S. title having DDP that just
or even the Jersey Triad heel version, which was great.
True.
Like that could have worked, but they didn't let Page be Page. He's a grungy dude from Jersey. Just let him be who he is.
Yeah, don't repackage him. Just let him be the asshole that he is, right? Like, I mean, there it is.
Yeah. What were you saying, Justin?
You think that so you're saying the booking that Page would have came in from WCW with would have been his downfall.
I think so. And plus Page being as so old, like, we know Vince rarely takes chances on older guys. And Page being as old as he was, I can't see Vince going with him.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going off of how strong he was being utilized in WCW around that time period. If that would have you know given him a little bit of an edge moving into the Stanford.
It could have, because I looked it up. January 31st, 2000 is when the Radicals showed up
Yeah.
on Raw. So I honestly think that the main reason why Vince was so willing to take them and put them on TV right away with the Radicals was because they had put the title on Benoit. If they hadn't put the title on Benoit, helping to solidify 3 cruiserweights and an under height heavyweight, they don't have a lot of for the casual fans. There's not much heat there.
Brand recognition.
There's not much recognition. But because Benoit had won the title and then was like, okay, I'm out, that was huge. Everyone's like, okay, the world champion just left. And he beat Sid, who's a freaking monster. So him tapping Sid out for the title, everyone's going like, wow, Chris Benoit's the champ. Boom, gone. They're on Raw. That was a big swing. If Paige was on top, if Paige was champ or Booker T was champ, that would have helped swing for them. But going as they were at that time, that wouldn't have helped them, unfortunately. It would have been bad.
I do hate
Fair points.
I do hate to cut off the Cook session, but Matt knows, and it's an ongoing joke, that 20-minute time limit. So
No problem.
AEW stuff here at this show. That's how we run things around this joint. So
without further ado, though, I'm gonna pass it off to you, Clint. I'm gonna save Matt for last, as always, as I do for the most part. Clint, who is your what if blank did leave?
So happy Austin 316 day. So to that, mine goes with Stone Cold leaving in that just throw together match with Brock in Atlanta, where he was just like, all right, Vince, well, up yours. I'm just going home, and flies home. So let's say he doesn't leave, right? If he doesn't leave the company, him and Brock have that match. And obviously it's going to be a great match, but Brock's going to just throw Stone Cold around. Does that feud, if Stone Cold doesn't leave, does that feud actually culminate after the King of the Ring tournament and everything, thus propelling Brock even further to universes that nobody's ever gone to? Does that actually bode well for WWE to keep Brock in WWE so he doesn't go to the UFC and do all that and have that little hiatus, then come back? So having a feud, having the match with Stone Cold, then that burns off. King of the Ring's over. They have another feud, keeps it going. And then does that actually keep Brock within the company for longer, where he might not ever leave? And then he could have been, had the title for 4, 5, 6, 700 days, or however long it could have been at the peak of Brock's just physical, unreal beast-like self. So that's kind of where I went with it, was that if Austin doesn't leave, does it actually help Brock in the long run stay and keep that money coming into WWE?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I went with it. I'm not going to get long-winded because I know Matt might have something to say about it. Hopefully, we'll see. So, but yeah, that's it. So here, hit me with it. What do you think?
I'm going to pass it off to you, Matt, because you always are more insightful than I am.
Oh, no, I don't say that. As much as I don't like Austin, I kind of wish he wouldn't have taken his ball and gone home again, because he could have done great business with Brock. I do think Brock would have tossed him around the ring, and I personally would have enjoyed seeing that. But I think, look, Austin's a heat magnet, which is why they bring him back, every year to stun some random people, because fans are nostalgic for it. So I think it would have been good for the WWE at that time, especially because the business was starting to trend down a bit, and they were having difficulty building new stars, and with Rock being more Hollywood, Triple H starting to slow down a little bit, as far as from out of the main, kind of starting to phase out of the main title picture a little bit. It would have been really helpful for them to still have Austin there to build the legacy of Brock even more. I think there would have been some creative differences. I think he'd have demanded to go over in some way Maybe 1 out of 2 matches where he goes over and Brock, or probably 3 matches where he goes over at least in one of them, and maybe one's a DQ or something like that, so he doesn't lose cleanly to Brock twice. Because I don't think he would go for that, but it would have been good. Like I'm totally fine with the prospect of Austin.
Well, and Austin staying too, to cut you off. Also, like Austin staying, it could have had a program with Cena too. I mean, when Cena was just getting, word life and everything. I mean, maybe not. Maybe that would have still been a little too early. But I mean, just them two on the mic together, just bantering back and forth, could have been just great. I mean, for TV, it'd have been good. Now, granted, it'd have been hard to have a match.
That match would have been ugly.
Well, even Austin having a match with Brock. I mean, Austin has 4 or 5 moves. Brock has 3, and 2 of them are just, I'm going to throw you as far as I can.
But see, you're talking about young Brock, who was still showing his collegiate wrestling skills. Yeah, he was still showing out his full bag. So he could have carried that match.
He did pull.
Okay, that's true. That's true.
Right, exactly, Justin, exactly.
But so my thing is, I agree with Matt on a lot of points there. I think it would have been great for WWE, and I think it would have been great for Austin and Brock. The question that comes to mind is for how long would that have lasted? So I mean, I think if they prolong that and they keep it going for a while, I still think we end up seeing one, or if not both of them, gone.
Still leave,
within a couple of years, because like you said, creative differences. 3 people can't have their way. You introduce Cena to the mix, it gets even more volatile. So I think that we still see, I think we see short-term gain, but the long term, I don't think it helps out, because what happens if you lose both of them? Now you're stuck in a quandary of how to replace Brock Lesnar and Stone Cold Steve Austin. So
at the same time,
that's where my head goes if they both stayed. I think one of them, or not both of them, end up gone, almost in the same fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you end up with another Brock Goldberg type situation where it's just a crapshoot there at the end, and it's terrible, absolutely terrible. So.
Yeah. I do agree. Like, I think just to kind of put us, I know Carl's gonna watch this back. Just to put it into a more clearer thought. So, Austin doesn't leave, but he does leave like after the Brock feud, essentially.
No, not even after the Brock. Well, I mean, that's what Justin was saying. I'm saying he doesn't even leave. Like, he stays. He doesn't take his ball and go home. He stays. He takes the loss against Brock in the King of Ring tournament, and they have just a main event feud for however long, because Brock was going through the roof, and then you have Stone Cold stay and try and keep him happy longer, so he can stay longer, so he doesn't just leave on such a just, okay, bye, I'm out. Like,
okay. So, but then who leaves in this scenario, just so I can get a clear idea?
Oh man, who leaves in this scenario? Vince.
Do you just leave out Goldberg? Just have him not be in WWE? Just keep him out?
That would be okay with me. I mean, I like Goldberg, but I would be okay with that. Him not coming over and not having that program.
Cool. So if Goldberg would just left out the whole situation of Brock and Stone Cold, I'm happy with that.
Goldberg leaves wrestling. That's what it is.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, okay, there it is. So, boom, Biscuit just dropping bombs right there.
Good.
And screwing Goldberg. Sorry, I missed that.
No, because that way it at least follows the narrative of the episode of did leave. So if someone did leave, but they were left out of the scenario for that point, then.
Yeah, so Goldberg, deuces, gooses.
All right. Now, the one I've been waiting for, because I am a very big mark for this wrestler, and it's not CM Punk and it's not Orange Cassidy. I'm a big mark for this guy. Matt, who is your pick for this scenario? Your time begins now.
So my what if is, what if Okada currently, right now, decides to leave Japan for what I call the tour of the Far West. So Okada is going to come over the United States. He's going to work pretty much with everybody but WWE. because Vince would want to do something dumb like put him in NXT and waste his time in our time. So I'm talking Ring of Honor, AEW, Impact, and maybe a shot here or there in another promotion, but those ones primarily. So we start with AEW because they have the biggest, and Omega and the Bucks are cutting some type of promo. Kenny's talking about how he's beating everybody, and even though he dropped the titles or whatever in Impact, whatever, how he's still the greatest wrestler in the world, yada yada yada. Lights go out. We hear some Japanese, kind of like a Yokozuna type Japanese music, entrance music, and then it like cuts into like a Japanese theme, like really hardcore rock entrance, and the Bucks and Omega just like bugging out, like what the heck. And the lights come back on. Okada standing in the ring. JR and them, they flip out. Excalibur is losing his mind. Okada clears the ring. Yeah, Okada clears the ring. A translator comes in to interview for him, and Okada has a belt on that's got one in the center and two empty plates. And Okada says he's here to take over the Far West on tour. He is here to not collect belts. He's here to collect companies. So he's going to put it every time he defeats a company, he's going to put that company's logo in his belt.
I'm getting goosebumps.
He says he's starting with Kenny Omega. He said, "No, Japan saw what I did to Omega. Now North America is going to see what I can do to Kenny Omega." They have their match. First match is a DQ because of elite interference, whatever. The return match, Okada is triumphant, but he doesn't put the plate in after beating Omega, and he says because he's done it before. Now he wants to take on the AEW champion, not for the title, but for honor. And whoever the AEW champion is at that point ends up losing to Okada, and they shake hands. Respect is all around. Okada then shows up at Impact. Same thing. It will probably at this time around, it will be like Moose or maybe Rich Swann again. Challenges the champion, tells Impact, "I'm here to collect, I'm here to defeat you." And he does, and then he also shows up simultaneously in Ring of Honor, and decides to start in the pure division, showing that he can out wrestle them, and then takes on whoever their champion would be, which would probably be Roosh still, because I don't see them taking the belt off him anytime soon. And eventually he puts each logo of each company in his belt, and you book it for like an 8 months to a year run through the United States, and he can do small shots at other companies that are trying to build up and have a big name that can run through. And Okada conquers the West. He gets a break from Japan in their schedule, and then he returns to New Japan and continues to be awesome, but is built even higher because he has literally conquered the West, which no other Japanese wrestler can truly claim. And he would cement himself probably as the GOAT of Japanese wrestling.
So I will say I got goosebumps throughout that entire thing, because the wheels were just turning. So I want to piggyback off of your idea for an entrance.
Okay.
You could probably jerry rig this. You have just like, do you know how they have Sting with Snow in AEW?
Yes.
Just have in the center of the ring, just rain.
Rain. Oh yeah, clearly. Clearly.
Just rain, not money. Just like pouring rain.
Yeah, so you're using a rain machine to bring the rainmaker in. Absolutely.
And for say maybe like the Titantron, have kind of like a countdown on there, like a golden countdown. Then when it hits the 1, the lights come up.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately he grabs Omega, Rainmaker, straight up. And the beautiful effect, water just flies off of, and it's picture perfect.
Oh yeah. And you can do that when the lights are off, because you can put the baby oil on for that splash effect while the lights are off. The fans can't see anything.
Yeah.
He gets in there, Rainmaker, Omega's hair flies, the splash. Oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
I was getting goosebumps like you just
Rainmaker.
talking about it. I was like, oh.
They might not need a rainmaker since it's in Florida. I mean, it rains all
Well,
the
no, like, well,
time anyway.
say, well,
I mean,
in this
you just
scenario,
time it right with a hurricane.
in this scenario, like AEW is back on the road. We're
Oh,
back
okay,
on.
yeah.
Because again, this is the Far West tour, so they're going through America, so all these cities are going to get to see the greatness that is Okada.
I would
That's a good
add
one.
one thing to your scenario. I would add one thing, and I know it's just me being me on this one. I'd say, yeah, have him take the belt and then vacate it and say, yep, moving on to the next one. Just as I did it. I won your title. He's in the record book as a champion. He vacated it, and now that he has been the champion, that just means that plate in the side of his belt means a lot more. It means that it doesn't just mean I beat your guy. I won your title, and I won your title, and I didn't even want it. I took it.
I did it. I did it just because I could do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think so.
I think. Go ahead.
No, sorry, you can go.
No, I was just saying. I just think that adds. I think that adds some depth to the quest. He needs the belt collector. He wants to hold all the belts at once.
Mm-hmm.
Okada, he collects all the belts, but he doesn't keep them. He just conquers a company.
So
being a champion of that company.
I have 3 possible champions in AEW for that time: Hangman, Orange Cassidy, or Pac.
I would rather Pac. Yeah.
I'd rather Hangman because you have him. Because you have a buckshot lariat versus the Rainmaker. 2 clotheslines. Both are very brutal.
Yeah, but
have Hangman hit the buckshot, but Okada kick out.
Have him say kind of like Matrix ducks it, and then goes behind Hangman hitting the Rainmaker.
But see, he pulls into the Rainmaker. Maybe if it was Ibushi, I would say if he had Ibushi's athleticism, I would say he could Spanish fly reverse the buckshot, and then still have his arm where he can pull him into the Rainmaker. But he would have to. It would have to
just sidesteps it.
Yeah, he'd have to sidestep it.
Arm.
Yeah, I think maybe if he sidestepped it into a German, but didn't let go and stood up with it, and then you expect a second German, and he pulls him into the Rainmaker and finishes him off.
Mm. And then I also do see the good idea of him and Pac, though. Him and Pac would have 5 stars.
There's just too many similarities between Hangman and Okada. Like, you don't want to steal a match. Well, with Pac,
Fire versus
all the possibilities.
Yeah, all the possibilities.
Yeah, I like Orange Cassidy, but you got to scratch him from that equation.
I only brought up Orange Cassidy because everyone knows I'm a big Orange Cassidy fan.
I like him, but he does not. He's a comedy wrestler. He's not. No one's going to take him seriously enough against Okada. That just.
Yeah, I think Orange Cassidy against Okada for the AEW title would actually not progress Okada's narrative at all. I think it would actually make Okada look OP in this situation instead.
Fair enough. And now with the very limited time that we have left, a 30-minute episode. Who cares?
Hey, you gotta get us thrown off the air. Here we are.
Hey, if we go back to the what if, I think I forgot what it was. We went like 32 minutes over, and I'm like, whatever. I sent Carl both edits. So now for my what if did leave. Mine is different. Mine is a work shoot leave. So in 2011, at the height of Matt's favorite wrestler, there was a nice match being built up for Cena and Punk at Money in the Bank. Vince wasn't going to sign off on it. And Vince, they're going back and forth. Cena said, if you don't give me the match, I'll go somewhere else, brother. And at that time, TNA had just signed Hulk Hogan around 2010, 2011. That was the biggest thing. And they're also were moving to Monday nights. That's a big key element in this as well. I think they were moving to Monday nights, right? Or were they past that? If you know, Matt.
I think they were about to move to Monday.
Because I know in 2009 they did. I know in 2009 they were on Mondays. Because that was when Brett came back to Monday Night Raw.
Yes.
So like I'm saying this.
They were on it, or I think they were already on it.
Or were getting ready to leave. But in this scenario, they stayed on Monday nights. Let's leave it at that. So like with Cena saying that kind of lit a fire, excuse me, under everyone thinking possibilities. So we still have Cena getting the match with Punk, but that added stipulation was if Cena loses, he is fired. We keep Cena losing, and we have him work, shoot, fired. And guess where he ends up that Monday night? He ends up in the Impact Zone, running in on he comes in at the main event. There's this big murmuring of the biggest WWE signing just happened. An ex-WWE superstar just signed a TNA contract, and they're going to announce it at the end of the show. So
Hogan would have to be the one saying that.
Yes. You have Hogan hype it up. Like there's mini backstage segments. There's a limo pulling up. And what TNA always fails to do, they show the feet of someone getting out. All you see is the limo. And you see the door open, cut to commercial. You don't see anyone leaving. So at that point, we're now at the main event. Hulk Hogan introduces who's coming out. And because John Cena's real name is actually John Cena, is Jonathan Cena. You can't fudge any names. Hulk Hogan announces who it is. The Doctor of Thugonomics music plays. Out comes John Cena to a roaring TNA crowd, whether they're booing or cheering him. One moment.
All 15 of those people are roaring.
all 1,500 Universal Pass members are roaring. I had to, because that's where they filmed out of the Universal lot.
It was March 8th, 2010 is when they went to Monday night.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. So they stayed there for a year, I think. Perfect. So you have Cena there, and he goes, "I said what I said, and I'm here." And you just build this story of Cena trying to make the Monday Night Wars again. He goes, "I was fired, so I'm here." And the thing is, you still keep Triple H getting the COO position. You said, "You see what you just did?" They're going to mention it, that you saw what just happened on the network, right? You hearing what's happening? Our biggest player is gone, and it's all your fault for adding that ultimatum. You could have just gave him the match. And then you have, and goes, "And I'm sorry to say this, but you are no longer the chief operating officer of WWE. They gave that position to me." You still have the unsafe work environment stuff build on that end, but you keep Cena in TNA for a year and a half, until whenever TNA wants to dissolve this relationship. So
I just tell you, the only thing that has popped into my head, even when you said this before we started recording, I'm just thinking, how in the hell is John Cena going to do the 5-knuckle shuffle in a 6-sided ring? That's the only thing that keeps popping into my head. How does he do it?
It's possible because the two.
He's got 6 options, bro. What are you talking about?
Okay, but the hard camera, it's not like it's the hard camera.
It wouldn't be too hard because the sides that he needs to bounce off of are there. Well, you got that, then it goes out like that. It kind of
so you've got your angle, and then there are only 2 flat sides are on the hard camera side.
He can. It doesn't matter as long as he ends up in front of hard camera. It doesn't matter which one he bounces off.
Okay, that's true.
If he wants to, he'll do it off the top rope.
I don't know why that's what popped into my head during this whole thing, but I'm just like, how's he gonna do his signature move?
Clint's like, where's hard camera?
Yeah, exactly. I don't
Now-
know.
He's not Kane spinning around trying to figure out where the hard camera is in the hell.
So with this idea, you essentially have Cena having his matches in TNA, having bangers, and you think of all the possibilities. You got him and AJ when Cena was at his prime. You could do that. You could have him and Sting. And I think Hogan was doing some matches here and
we
there.
don't want that.
I know we don't want that, but just having Cena beat the piss out of an old man, that'd be pretty funny.
Oh, you
be honest.
got Samoa Joe.
Do you think if he
Samoa
would have
Joe.
gone? Do you think if he would have gone to Impact, do you think we could have had heel Cena then too?
Yes, that would have been. That's the biggest heel turn. Going to Impact, that's the biggest heel turn.
And then running with that heel turn,
Yeah,
that's the only way it could work.
At
If
that
he'd have
time-
been face Cena there, it wouldn't have worked. If he was heel
that
Cena,
time, at that time too, we were getting the aces of eights.
oh, that's right.
Think,
Ace and Eights.
think of the better leader we could have had with Cena.
No, he would not have fit in Ace of Eights.
He would not have fit, but you have to see it's a heel Cena, and you just change the dynamic of aces and eights, because there was a new member every week. We take that out. We just have Cena, Taz, Bully Ray, and I think Devon was in it.
He stabilizes the group.
Yeah.
He makes it.
And then you pretty much have an NWO of a good cheap ripoff, Wish.com NWO.
You got two good mouthpieces in Bully Ray and Cena, though. I mean, that's two good mouthpieces.
And then on the other side, you now have someone who is carrying the company on his back after someone just left, which is Punk. Which is, I know Matt kind of doesn't want to hear that, but you now have a Monday Night War of Punk leading the Raw side and Cena leading the Impact side.
See, I would say Aces and Aces doesn't work. Now, if you did Fortune, because that was 2010, if you put Cena in charge of Fortune and turn him heel, that makes a lot more sense.
All right, I can.
Because then you've got Flair and Hogan then pumping him up. You've got AJ. And the British dude, you can just get rid of him. He was whack. I forget Nigel, whatever his name is. You can get rid of him.
Nigel McGuinness.
Nigel McGuinness.
Yeah, Nigel McGuinness. And then you still have Storm, and Bobby and Robert Roode.
And another thing that we talked about, saying like, now does TNA get a rub by some guys appearing on WWE? Yeah, you throw the jobbers, like the Activision guys, essentially.
I wouldn't say you have to throw jobbers out there. You can get some exposure for. You could have Storm. You could have Storm and Rude, and help that tag team division. Invade. Yeah, show up and beat their tag teams out there. You can really put some talent out there. You don't have to.
Yeah, crossovers work without feeding somebody.
Yeah,
you can have a crossover with a pure talent from TNA, and it worked for all parties. You don't need to just have,
And then,
we could have seen peak Jay Lethal.
Yeah.
In WWE.
Yeah. Oh,
I just don't think you send somebody that's at the top of the card, because then it really hurts either one. Like, you send Joe or AJ at that time to feud with Punk or something. That's rough. You need your mid card guys or your tag team guys for sure to. I mean, I'm not saying send your jobbers. Don't send Heath Slater and whoever else over. I mean, actually make it a competitive feud and something that is building both sides of it. I mean, yeah, somebody's got to take a loss and somebody's got to win. But if you're building it up properly, I mean, you're just helping both companies at that point. But you don't want to send your two marquee guys, though.
But could you imagine this? They send Jay Lethal over, Storm and Rude and the tag team, and then just to make fun of WWE legends kind of as a heel role, you have Jay Lethal just imitating Flair, doing the Black Machismo.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Doing like the Black Machismo, Macho Man stuff. That would have been perfect.
Just him there and imitating Nash, like any WWE, Michaels, any WWE star that he can imitate. Kind of like when Goldust was coming as a new character every week. Just every time Lethal comes out, he's imitating another star and just nailing it and just rubbing the WWE fans the wrong way.
Like Dolph did a couple years ago.
Yes.
3 years ago, something like that. 2 or 3 years.
Now I have an idea on how this feud and how thing could end. You end it at Mania. A main event, say 8-man tag match. You have whoever Punk can find and whoever Cena can find, and probably Fortune mainly use those guys.
Mm-hmm.
That way, in this storyline, Punk gets his main event, and a stipulation: if Cena's team loses, Cena has to come back to WWE. And then you can kind of end the TNA feud from there. Still keep it within the history books and still mention it, but just kind of end like that contracted relationship there.
See, I think it'd be better at SummerSlam because then you could have literally
I can
TNA, WWE, right? And
I
then
can see that.
It builds up to Mania, and then it's just that last match between Cena and Punk. Like, that's it. This is it. And you could literally build up through the Rumble and different things to make some guys in to keep that feud going.
Oh,
don't
get me wrong.
Mania.
I love that idea, but I want...
Or Survivor Series, excuse me, not SummerSlam. My bad. That was my fault.
I love that idea, but I want guys who would never be in WWE have a WrestleMania moment. Have that childhood dream of a WrestleMania moment.
I mean, it's a nice thought, but Vince would have never let that happen.
He would have never let that happen, but in this perfect world, he does.
So
in this perfect world, because also I see like the Survivor Series thing that's just a copy of the Invasion angle, and then people would kind of be like they would have a feeling where it's going. You have it at Mania. At that time, Cena has never lost a Mania. Cena was like high. He had barely lost a single Mania match. He was always main eventing, and you just drive it home there.
That's true.
So do we see like Vince recognizing the value of guys like AJ Styles or Samoa Joe because of his working relationship? Do they
in a perfect world, yes.
The WWE fold. Like, do we see AJ go to Japan, or does he end up? Vince is like, I'm gonna back up the Brinks truck to your front door. And
then
in a perfect world, yes. Like at that time, like when TNA contracts are up, Vince does see value in guys like Jay Lethal. He does bring back the Dudley Boys a lot earlier than he did. He brings in AJ. He brings in James Storner and Bobby Roode. You do that, but seeing that we're at 42 minutes.
Well, I was gonna say, can we talk about the ultimate feud that is going to happen between Zach and Carl now? Like, bro, we got to pick a side if we're gonna go Team Carl or Team Zach. I'm like in the middle.
I threw my shot in during the live. I'm
just glad it wasn't Chris Jericho going to AEW. That's where I thought you were gonna go.
Oh no.
Well, I thought it was going to be an AEW angle, and I was like, "Oh man, here we go."
Well, no, hey, I threw my shot. I said, "Hey, he doesn't like what ifs, but yet he allowed me to have a what if show."
There you go.
That's true.
I guess because the Outlaws' money. That's why.
Hey, it's quality content. Just because we got Justin with the 4K lighting, that's the only reason this show can go 43 minutes today.
And the Outlaws' money right here. I'm sorry, but our feud last summer was the highest thing. Sure, it got bogged down. But like that feud last summer was a hot ticket.
Well, you need to kick it up because Andres from the live after the NBA playoffs, that was crazy. So Carl started a whole new one last night, and if you haven't seen that, even if you're not a basketball fan, it's worth it just for the heat.
All right, I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna check it out after dinner.
All right, guys, we are clocking out a late one. This is the longest one we've had. Carl,
Carl.
I'll edit whatever I can down. But always the first perfect shots are the ones to go with. Without further ado, though, I'm going to rally us out. I am the Outlaw of Long Island, Zach Droll. You can catch me, you can follow me everywhere on social medias at Dark Shadow Zake. You can also catch me every week because upload schedules are weird on my Box Office Losers podcast. It's where me and my friend watch and review any and all things to ever grace the silver screen or your TV screen. We watch and review movies that we love, sometimes that we hate, but who cares? You can also catch me this Sunday on the AEW Injection, because thankfully after next week we are back to normal. No more Friday shows for AEW. So happy. Matt, where can we find you?
Yeah, Matt Williams, aka Rocky Mr. Magic. You can find me on Facebook, IG, Twitter. You can find Jig Nation content, which is Jock Plus Geek. At Jig Nation on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And definitely check us out. Check out our podcast. Check out our YouTube, and check out our Facebook group.
All right, Justin, where can we find you if anything to pimp out?
Oh, not much to give up. But you can find me on Instagram at JB_the_anime the fan. JB the anime fan.
All right,
I
and
talk about anime, I review figures and all that stuff.
all right, and Clint, where can we find you?
Boom. You can find Biscuit here on the What If every other week because I'm not cool enough to be here every other time, but that's fine. And you can find me and Justin on ECWD on Facebook, Epic Championship Wrestling Discussions. Talk about all things wrestling, mostly WWE, but talk about it all. That's about it.
We're expanding.
We're getting there. We're expanding. So you know what? This stuff with the hit list is going great. So happy to be here. Love you guys. Thank you so much for having us on again.
All right, thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you all next week for the next topic. See you guys then. Peace.
Thanks for watching the Sports Hit List. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. In fact, do it now.